What's up, guys? Mike here from the Internet Scholars. No Rob today because he doesn't have a PS4 anymore, so he didn't have a chance to play God of War, which is a damn shame because this is a great game. This is going to be a spoiler review, so I'm going to get into all the spoilers, small non-spoiler section before. Good game, great story, best PS4 game, exclusive to PS4. I'm not going to compare it to all other games that you can play on PS4, but exclusive to the PS4, I'm saying it's better than Uncharted, it's better than Last of Us Remastered, better than Horizon Zero Dawn. Three fantastic games, but this is the best of all of them. May soon be surpassed by Spider-Man, but I'm just a Spider-Man guy, so that could be a difference here. Top-line combat, top combat in maybe any game, especially the way that they continue to evolve the combat as you play, but that would be spoilers. A very focused story. Again, that would be getting into spoilers, can't touch on that. And just beautiful looking game overall. I mean, I'm playing on a regular PS4 and I have a PS4 Pro, but I mean, it's beautiful looking and very stylized in a way that's going to hold up. It's not going to be like Final Fantasy VII, where, if you play that back in the day, you're like, man, this looks great, but those polygons are ugly. No, this is, it kind of like has some kind of style, like kind of way where a Borderlands images will always hold up because it's kind of like got that shell shadedness. Is that how you pronounce that word? Who knows? But it's got its own kind of style, and just the way that it interprets and adapts Norse mythology, I think is really cool. So overall, great game. If I were giving it a score, it would be a 9 or a 10. One of my favorite games of all time. It's going to go up there. A bit early to say, but where before I would say Uncharted 4 definitely had a spot in the top games of all time. This, if I'm saying it's better than Uncharted 4, then, or I enjoy it more than Uncharted 4, and it's better than Uncharted 4, I would definitely have to put that in that conversation at least. But from here on out, it's going to be spoiler filled, so please tune out now because I think this game is best enjoyed when you don't know a lot about it. So yeah, spoilers from here on out. Okay, this is just a phenomenal masterpiece in combining storytelling and gameplay. That's what I think makes it so great, because as the story evolves, like just the fact that Atreus, who is, I guess to give a little downplay on what the game is, you're Kratos, the God of War. It's a sequel to other God of Wars, but also like a semi-reboot, because you're older, you're more mature, the gameplay is completely mapped differently, and that kind of reflects where Kratos has grown since then, where he's not angry anymore, would be the best way to say it. Like, he still has that anger, but it's different. But it's this whole game is just a story about Kratos and Atreus. Atreus being Kratos' son, and their journey to spread Kratos' wife, Atreus' mother's ashes throughout to the tallest mountain, which we later find is the land of the giants, which leads to other stories, which I'll get to. But what's cool about, well, I say the gameplay and the story are connected. You start off Kratos definitely being a different character, an older character than the Kratos we knew before. So where he starts off when he has the axe, he can't like jump like he used to, but he still has this brute strength, and he also still has the Spartan rage, though he doesn't tap into it as much. Like that first fight against. Wow, I lost the basically main antagonist's name, the god that you fight at the beginning of the game, who continues to be throughout the game. You say you still have this anger, but you don't rely on it as much. You kind of hate your past, and the connection between story and gameplay doesn't end there. I mean, when you start off, Atreus is kind of not that useful. I mean, he eventually gets his bow. He can shoot his bow to be helpful. But he becomes more confident as the game goes on. Like, the gameplay keeps adding layers. You start off, hey, I can just block, parry, attack. Then later you can block, parry, attack, use his bow. As Atreus becomes more confident, he can start stunning enemies. He can start jumping on top of them and pulling them back. He can start throwing you health stones, much like Elizabeth did from the other games. And then Kratos himself, as he begins to accept more of who he was in the past, where at the start of the game, he's being immortal, he's being a man, and he doesn't want to be a god anymore. And I think what's cool about how it ties together, once again, gameplay and storytelling, is as he becomes more in tune with his own godhood and kind of accepting the fact that he's a god and explaining to Atreus that he's a god, And as he begins to accept this and wants to be God for the better, he becomes more powerful. He eventually accepts his past. He gets the Blades of Chaos back, which I think is a great moment, which got spoiled for me a little. I wish I would have known that was coming, but I kind of thought it was coming the way it was going. And when he gets those blades to go to hell and save his son, he goes to hell in all these games. What's up with that? And as he begins to, first it's kind of a shame that he's using this, but then once Atreus finds him, he's like, oh man, these are cool. This is just the tie between Kratos' powerfulness and his storytelling. I just can't get over how important that is to make this such a great game. And I mean, just learning the combat, I'm glad I played this game on the hardest difficulty. Not the hardest difficulty, but the challenge mode. There's a mode harder than that, but the challenge mode is the hardest, where you can put it down later, which I may have done to do some of the Valkyrie fights, because those are a bitch. But I mean, just the way you learn the combat, you once you start to get the light rune attacks, the hard rune attacks, being able to switch between both weapons, the different abilities you're able to unlock as you go on, how increasing your stats gains bonuses for these abilities, being able to switch between Atreus' different arrows, being able to summon the different monsters, or relic beasts, whatever they're called. I always use the wolves. Just pounce attacks, great for Valkyries. You just become more powerful just by learning the game, and the game doesn't throw all these different aspects at you at one time. It feels like you're naturally learning this in a way that doesn't feel like it's like when you start a new Metroid game, it's like, oh man, I had to lose all these abilities, even though you were Kratos before and you were all powerful, being able to take down titans and gods at the end of God of War 3. Where you start this game, you don't feel like Kratos isn't that powerful, because you start off with that boulder, I believe his name, fight at the beginning, where it's like, no, he's still got all the strength, and you never feel like he's holding back. Just he's kind of ashamed, but as you learn the combat and as you get stronger, I mean, you go back to some of the early realm terrors, which you'll find throughout the world, and just kicks ass in those, just because oh, I can take these out super easily now, just because of how great the combat is. But the combat and its connection to the story, it's not the only great thing about this. The story itself, I think, is phenomenal without the gameplay elements. I think the connection between the two is essential to why this is one of my favorite games. But the story itself is just great. You don't really learn how great it is until you get to that ending. So big spoilers here if you haven't got to the end of the game, because it ends in a way that up until that point you don't think it's going to end that way, but when it does, it just makes it beautiful. As you're going through this, if you listen to the Internet Scholars podcast, number 10, I think was the last one, and you heard me say, oh, I think I'm at a point where I think there's 5 to 10 hours left. I was wrong, there's 2. I had the last big fight, and then the denouement after that. The way I thought it was going to go was after that fight with Boulder, which you knew was eventually going to happen, after Freya, who, I'll get to the characters in a minute, but after Freya gets upset with you because you killed him, I thought after that there was okay, now we're going to find out what Odin's plan was, and you were going to have to go through a different selection of gods at the end, kind of like a onslaught thing, because in the previous God of War games it was kind of defeating the gods was a big thing in this, but in this game it was much more small. It was, you just kill the one, and you don't do it because you want to, like in other games. It's literally because you have to, because the world's a better place. Freya in it. And if that would have been the multiple bites, which is all awesome. Every boss fight with him, in fact, most of the boss fights, even the reskin ones, really cool. If he was the only god you fit, minus Thor's sons, which you fought once, good fight, but you would think, okay, now we're going to get into a God of War style game at the end. But what's just awesome and what's beautiful at the end is you realize once you get to the land of the giants, this game truly was just about the journey to spread the mother's ashes. And you may be like, okay, well, what makes that awesome? It's just the fact that it wasn't about where the journey leads them, but about the journey itself, I think was just awesome. Because it's really about how Kratos and Atreus bond over this, how they both gain confidence in each other, how they're both trying to get better. And to know that the mother, who was a giant herself and make Atreus half giant, half god. Just the fact that she had left all these marks throughout the world, like every place you'd been, every time you saw that little yellow, like the okay, I'm accepting this because it's a game, I'm gonna climb up here thing. You realize, no, the mom was there. The mom knew this was the journey you're gonna take. This was all about the reason why she wanted you to go to this place was so you could make each other better, and just the fact that it's just about the journey. Like when those credits start rolling as you're walking away from the mountain, it really hits you. It's like, no, that's what the game was about. It was this small scale story in this big awesome world, and it was a very powerful moment for me personally. I think what makes the game really good, and the fact that they were, I mean, just the fact they were able to find a real answer for why there's those stupid symbols throughout the world, I think was another very big connection between gameplay and story. They're able to connect that once again, even in the subtle ways. And the way it teases the next game, the tease of Thor at the post-credit scene, obviously think that's very cool. The way the world itself sets up other things, there's all the other realms where it's like, oh, you can't travel here right now. And it's like, okay, that's setting that up for a future now. You thought it was going to be this game, but just the ending makes me like, no, I'm ready for that. And the next one, the different stories that Mimir tells, gets you like, okay, I can't wait to do that. And the big tease that Atreus is Loki some way is kind of like the cool way that they're playing with Norse mythology. It's like, what does that mean? We don't really know what that means because, it's much like the last Batman Telltale game where it's like its own adaptation of Batman. It's like its own adaptation of Norse mythology. It's like, I want to know what that's going to mean. There's theories that Kratos may be Tyr, which I think could be interesting, and maybe some time travel involved. And all around, this has me pumped for a sequel, but also very satisfied with the way the game ends. I didn't talk about the world yet. The world is awesome. Like I said, it's beautiful. There's lots of variety for not that different sceneries. It's all like kind of this Norse cold wilderness, but I think you still get some cool beach places, some cool temples, some different castles. I think a lot of variety in the world where it like makes each little section feel a bit different while existing in the same place. There's not a lot of characters, but I think all the characters have a lot of character. The two dwarves, Brock and Sindri, are just their differences are very funny, and you naturally want to do their stories because one, it leads to better gear. So another cool thing about all the side quests in this is that they're all story filled. So I wanted to naturally do them because like even in the game, like Atreus and Kratos just they're bickering of if we should do this, should we go fight these Valkyries. It feels very natural for the characters to do these things, so it feels very natural to do these story elements. Faye, I think, is another great character, and the moment in your head when you realize, oh, she's Boulder's mom, and we're going to have to kill him because that's the way the game's going. Like, the drama is going to ensue, but it still like breaks your heart in that final Baldur fight where it's like, oh man, I don't want to do this, but it's what needs to be done, and it's what Kratos would do, and it's very, very intense, very emotional. I think Baldur is a very almost a I don't know that much about Norse mythology. I'm much more a Greek mythology thing, and he seems like a very Norse character to have this like curse of not being able to feel anything. It's like that's such a Greek tragic kind of thing. And I like that Kratos at the end, he tries to change him, try to be like, no, be better than I was, and unfortunately it's not able to happen. But, I mean, the few characters you interact with and just the world itself. Mimir, another great character, with like a heart-wrenching moment, like just in a random conversation. It was another great thing about this game is all the random conversations, like all the tales that are told, like going through the portal system, all the boat stories, and the fact that Kratos is able to tell that story about the Atreus' namesake, the Greek Spartan Atreus. And Atreus is like, hey, you finally told a good story because of all the bad stories that Kratos was able to tell before. All works great, all phenomenal. There's not a lot of things that I think are wrong with this game. The collectibles are a little much. I mean, it's fun now that I beat the game to still have something to do in the world, just kind of like go around, because again it's very beautiful, and all the different puzzles I think are really cool. But it's not necessarily it kind of takes you out of the game a little. Like, why would Kratos be picking up these random artifacts that are just laying around? But overall, I think all the side content is phenomenal. All the characters are phenomenal, and just the character building you get in just random conversations, I think, is another great thing in this game. Where it's like most of the time I listen to podcasts and stuff while I'm playing the game, but unless I was like in a period of combat, because the combat was hard, so I'd die in a lot of spots, and if I was dying a lot, I'd put a podcast on for a little bit while I'm trying to beat this one spot. But besides that, the score, the dialogue, everything said and heard in the game was something I wanted to hear. Which, I mean, even some of my favorite games, I can't say that about. I mean, if I start up like a GTA or something, half the time I'm gonna have a podcast on. It's just, it's rare that a game will get me to not do that and just play the game, listen to the game, and want to be in that world. And I think that's one of the great things. It's able to balance that line at the end between wanting to play and having a satisfying ending. And I think it successfully does it. It builds up the sequel without feeling cheap. It's not like Halo 2 where at the end it's like, oh, that's the ending. It's more like, oh, that's the ending, and it makes sense for the game, makes sense for the story. I think this is the kind of thing that works best as a game too. Don't get me wrong, I think this could be made into a great movie, but I think, like I said, the ties between gameplay and story are what make it special. So overall, I superly enjoyed this game. I cannot recommend it enough. It's my favorite PS4 game. Hopefully this review didn't ramble on too long. Hopefully it was good. It's been a long time since I recorded one of these. In fact, I'm going to post a little video on my channel that I haven't used since Dunkirk, I think, was the last review that's on there. I guess that was just a year ago, but still, I haven't regularly used that channel in a while, and be like, hey, I have a review again. So hopefully we'll get some more views on this. Let me know down below what you thought about it. I think I pimped Internet Scholars at the beginning. If not, once again, this is Mike from the Internet Scholars, talking to you about one of the best games of this generation, one of my favorite games of all time as of now. I doubt that'll change, because I'm at the end and I just can't think of bad things to say. Please like, share, and subscribe. Legitimately, we need to get more eyes on this channel, and that's how you can help. And go play God of War. Like, share, subscribe. Internet Scholars, signing out.